All right, today we're going to be talking about how to use other people's money to buy real estate. Have you ever wondered how many millionaires are created in real estate? It's a great question to ponder, but I think we can all agree that it's probably quite high. Actually, real estate is probably the number one way in which most people make their fortune. What is holding most people back? Well, for most, it's usually a lack of knowledge or a lack of money. And I think most people probably fall under the category of not having money to get started in real estate. However, if I could show you how to use other people's money, not your own money, wouldn't that make a big difference? Of course it would. If you're ready, let's go. So to get started, I want to help you understand a few things starting off. First off, what is other people's money? What does that mean? And how does that factor into your own investing? I'm also going to talk about why would somebody else let you use their money for your real estate investing? And I want to help you understand what's in it for them. Finally, I'm going to outline some ideas and strategies where you can use other people's money to get started with your own real estate investing. All right, first off, what is other people's money? Well, think about it. It is exactly how it sounds. It is other people's money that you're using. And it's not a new concept, it's something that's been used for a long, long time. Sometimes people call it capital leverage, where you're leveraging capital or other people's capital to utilize into your investing strategies. And it isn't just from other people, think about it. You could also leverage and use other people's money from institutions. Matter of fact, this is done all the time. Unless they pay cash for a home, they are using somebody else's money. Matter of fact, every home I've ever bought or every property I've ever bought has been utilized by other people's money, whether it's an investor friend of mine or it's the bank's money that I'm utilizing. So this isn't a new concept, it's something that's been around for a long time. OPM is powerful, not only in real estate, but also in education. I've mentioned in previous videos a good friend of mine who got started in real estate. He didn't know anything, but he knew that that would be his wealth creation tool to get started to make the money that he wanted to make. But he knew he needed education, right? So he utilized capital leverage through utilizing a credit card to pay for mastermind groups, for education to get started. And he utilized that bought him time where he could leverage the investment up front and pay for that over a period of time. But doing so allowed him to gain the education to get started in real estate and utilize the proceeds from the money he made in his real estate investing career to pay for the education. It was a very smart strategy that served him very well over the years. So how does utilizing other people's money factor into my own real estate investing career? Well, I'm happy to tell you. Matter of fact, I've probably worked with over a dozen individuals over the last decade and utilizing their money to buy properties, to invest in things that I thought was going to be a great return, and really form relationships where I could utilize them over and over again. Now, some of them I approached and said, hey, I've got a great project, I've got a great investment, would you want to participate? Others over the years have approached me and said, hey, I understand you're doing these things. So just recently, a good friend of mine actually sold a portion of his organization and he came in contact with a lot of money. So he approached me not too long ago and said, listen, I know you're doing this, I know you're investing in real estate, and I can utilize my capital to participate in the investments that you're doing. Now for him, that made a lot of sense because the money that he had was either sitting in a bank account, maybe it was sitting in a fund, but he knew that I was getting pretty good returns with the real estate investment that I was doing. So him participating took his money out of a bank account to put it into something that was gonna make a lot more money. For me, it worked out well because I could then at that point not just buy one property, but maybe 2, 3, or 4 properties by utilizing his money as well. Whatever you do, OPM, other people's money, should be an investing strategy that you should utilize when getting started in real estate. So why would somebody allow you to utilize their money? First off, it probably needs to be somebody that knows, likes, and trusts you. And I'd imagine people that have additional funds to give to you to utilize their money probably understand the power of leverage, right? At some point throughout their life, they've used leverage in some way in their business or in their life. They've utilized other people's knowledge, other people's expertise to build their organization or to build everything around them, right? Leverage is a very powerful tool and they understand it. So if you're willing to put in the work and find properties, chances are you can find somebody, an organization or individual that is willing to let you utilize their money because they understand that by doing so, if this is what you're good at, if this is what you can do, that by doing so is going to benefit them as well. And for a lot of people that are going to allow you to utilize their money, there's very little risk in it for them. And let me tell you why. They want to secure whatever it is they're investing in by having their name on the property, which makes total sense. So for them, the risk is low. Their name's on the property. They've given you the money to invest into that property. If something were to go haywire, the property is in their name and they're secured. So let me tell you about some scenarios in my life that I actually use this strategy. My very first venture into real estate was just this. I knew an area, I knew it pretty intimately, and I had actually approached a couple of friends of mine that had some money. And I said, listen, I found these fourplexes. I'd love to buy them. The group wants to sell quite a few of them to us, but I don't have the funds to do it. And I had negotiated a pretty good deal. I'd approached the individual, said, listen, I'm willing to buy fourplexes from you. I'd love to buy 3 or 4. And he said, well, if you're willing to buy 3 or 4, why not buy more than that? We'd actually came to a number where I was going to buy 10 of them, but I did not have the funds to do that. So I approached the friends of mine to do just that, and they had helped me to acquire these properties through leveraging their money. I, in essence, used other people's money to acquire 10 fourplexes that actually ended up being a great thing. And I actually assigned a couple of these fourplexes to another individual and made money just by assigning the contracts that I had to another individual. Matter of fact, to this day, I still get emails. I got an email just about a week ago from an individual, a friend of mine, who is doing a large real estate project down in San Antonio, and he's looking to raise capital. And this happens all the time, right? Where people are getting involved in different real estate projects, utilize their money to drive a project forward using other people's money. So what are some ways to approach individuals? What must you do in order to get somebody excited about utilizing their money? Well, first off, you need to do your due diligence. You need to understand the area. You need to understand everything about it to be able to approach them intellectually and have a good understanding of what's about to happen. You also need to have an offer in place or very close to being done. And you've got to help these individuals understand this is what you do, that you understand that you've done this before, and you can help these individuals by utilizing their money, capital leverage, other people's money, putting it into a project that's going to get a better return than they could get by leaving their money in a bank. One thing that I've also seen that's very important is having printed materials that you can show these individuals about the project you're about to participate in, or some sort of deck, an online slide deck that shows the project, the returns, the potential. All of those things just add to the professionalism of what you want to do. And ultimately have a well thought out plan that protects the investor. They've got to be able to understand, okay, here's the security of the project, here's what we're going to do, and here's an exit plan. If all of those things are in place, chances are you're going to present yourself in such a way that they're going to understand this could potentially be a good deal for them. And the great thing about this is once you find an investor and you have a good project with the individual, that is somebody who will probably stay with you time and time again. If you can show a track record of success, a track record of finding deals, chances are that person who wants investing with you is going to be a lifelong investor for as long as you need, for as many projects as you want to do. Now, finally, let's talk about some strategies, some real world strategies. Let's say you don't have a real firm relationship with somebody that has tons of money, but you might have some individuals, family, friends, relatives that would be willing to get you some money to get started on a project. So what are those? What could happen right now where you don't need a ton of money, but you could show them some success through some deals? Well, here's a couple that I really like. Number one, sub 2 deals, right? What are sub 2 deals? Really, this is subject to. This is really a creative seller financing model where you find a property in today's market that the individual wants to sell, but because interest rates are so high, you're able to take over the mortgage that they have and utilize their low interest rate. However, at some point, you're gonna have to bring some money to the table, and this is where you could utilize other people's money. So you bring other people's money to the table, you then take over, the property is deeded into your name, and you continue making payments, but the payments are at the interest rates that they're currently at, so it's probably a lower payment. And whatever you decide to do with the property, whether you fix and flip, whether you rent it out, whether it's a short-term rental, by having a lower interest rate with a subject to seller financing creative model, you're able to utilize somebody's money to eventually have a rental property or exit the property and get not only the money back, but at a higher price than you bought it at. And one final strategy that I really like is Airbnb arbitrage. Now, we've talked about this before, but just to recap, Airbnb arbitrage is when you find maybe a long-term rental, maybe it's an apartment, maybe it's a condo, maybe it's a house, and you secure it as a long-term rental, but then you put into place the ability to utilize it as a short-term rental. So you've got it under contract as a long-term rental for a long period of time, but then you set it up and you market it on the different platforms out there, whether it's Vrbo, Airbnb, and you get nightly rentals or weekly rentals on that. Now, you might be paying, say, $2,000 a month for the long-term rental, but a nightly rate could be $300 a night. And if you're occupied at, say, even 15 nights a month, that's going to be $4,500 where you're only paying $2,000. Now there's a little more upkeep, a little bit more expense, but why might you need somebody else's money there? Well, to get a long-term rental, you're probably going to need the first month's, the last month's, and a deposit. And if you're able to get this money from an individual, utilize their money, you could have into place a cash flow machine through Airbnb arbitrage that could make you money and show to the investor that you're worthy of further funds down the road. Now, these are some strategies that I've seen work really well, and I've utilized other people's money my whole life, my whole investing career, and it's been a great thing for me. And now I've got individuals that I could go to probably at the drop of a hat and say, I've got a project, are you willing to invest? And if they are, great. If they aren't, I can move on to somebody else, or I could show a track record to somebody else who might come as a new investor. Now, I'd love to understand and hear what ideas you have or what projects maybe you've seen. And even if it's a great project, you don't have anybody, reach out to me. I'm always looking for great real estate deals. Just for being here today, I've got a free gift for you that I want to give to you at no charge. It's aaronsfreetraining.com. It's a short-term calculator where you enter in the numbers of the property that you're looking at, and it spits out whether it's a good deal or not. Once again, just click on the link below, aaronsfreetraining.com, and post a comment or a question. I'd love to have an interesting dialogue with you, and I hope you have an awesome day. Thanks.